Hello, and thank you for tuning into the
Mobility
Mobility
Bros.
Bros. I'm Coach Clif with my brother and host Ron. We will be covering athletic mindset, mobility, pain reduction, the thoughts and processes of a practitioner, and the mindsets of our clients and our members. Today, we're going to be talking about something that affects so many of us. We're going to be talking about back pain, lower back pain specifically as well. We're going to talk about our experiences working with people who have back pain. We're going to talk about some statistics, some notes, some things that we've worked on and pulled up, some education about what back pain is, things that dramatically affect back pain. We're going to be talking about our own experiences dealing with back pain, recovering from back pain, even possibly still dealing with chronic back pain. We want to give you the information you want. So if you have back pain, if you're suffering from back pain, if you've dealt with it before because of high athletic performances, sitting all day, or something else, please put it down in the comments below. We want to know what's going on with you guys. We want to be able to help share and respond with you guys. So let's put some information in the comments about what you're dealing with, and we'll see how we can add value. Ron, how are you feeling today, man? It's a beautiful day in November. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. It's only beautiful because you're bringing in the sunshine, bro.
Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah. So up here being legendary, man. So yeah, I'm feeling great today. As I told you, I just came from an amazing conference, and feeling turned up. The conference was about personal development and mindset, and and how to bring value, not just to you, but just to others. And that's what that's what we're here to do on this show, is to really bring value and just seeing how we can help and um, bring value to others. And one of the things we did at the conference, we did a lot of hugging. And man, I wish not only I could bring value, but I could get some virtual hugs out there. You know.
Yeah,
So you
man,
have
we
a
got to give
back
those
pain, I want
hugs.
to give you a little bit of hug.
Oh, it's beautiful, man. And I'm so glad you had an amazing experience at your conference. As we spoke, it sounded like it was deep, it was heart-centered and heartfelt. It sounded like it was also meaningful. And that is so powerful and so meaningful. So let's get into this back pain conversation, man. I've experienced a lot of back pain in my own life after having an MCL tear during my freshman year of football, and also having a Achilles tendon tear, both no surgery, I recovered from on my own with kinesiology, work, and training, and all of the things. But at time and time again, depending on how much I'm sitting, if I'm not as active in my workouts and my core gets weak, I find that, or if like I get sick, really sick, and I'm laying for a long period of time, I find my back pain kicking in, and I have to start start stretching and doing things to fix that. How about yourself? How have you dealt with back pain?
So in my own experience of back pain, and we're gonna get into just like the different types of back pain, and we're gonna explain that. But I would say that I've dealt with low back pain for some time, and it's just because I have what's called a hyperlordotic curve. And one of the things that a lot of people deal with when they have that curve, if they have more that they start putting on weight, it's like a teeter totter, right? You got to balance it out. And not just that, not just low back pain. I've dealt with some serious chronic pain in my thoracic spine as well. So as far as how I have dealt with it, I've always gotten, till this day, I've been uh, getting chiropractic adjustments and services for about 10 years. And I stay consistent. I say I do right now probably, I would say twice a month. There was a point in time where I was like every week, and then if I have a huge flare up, it's anywhere from two to three times a week. But right now I'm on what's called maintenance. Every other week I go, but I also manage my own issues with my back. I do a lot of stretching and mobility first thing in the morning, which I highly recommend. And that's when your most stiffness and your tightness happens, when you get right out, when you wake up and get right out of bed. So if you can implement some type of um, stretching and mobility routine for your back. It'll actually help open everything up, get you loose and moving first thing in the morning.
That's fantastic. And we
Yeah.
talked a little bit in our last episode about foam rolling and how there's debates on it. And you mentioned you foam roll every day, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I do foam roll every day, and I have some routines I specifically do with foam rolling. There's a book I just started reading right here called The Art and oh my bad called The Art and Science of Mobility, and has a lot of great nuggets in there about how to foam roll and do trigger point work in your back and throughout the body.
Mm.
So I've been reading that and going through that and getting some great ideas and nuggets as well. But definitely want to mention the two types of back pain that are common. The first type of back pain is acute. So acute is short-term back pain, lasts a few days to a few weeks. All right. So that acute back pain typically happens with an injury, and it's like within that first 24 to 72 hours where you're actually trying to feel and you're just trying to figure out if the back pain is going to subside or not, and you don't know how that's going to subside. And then chronic back pain is something that I typically deal with myself. So I have chronic issues in my back, but it's not going away, but it's how you manage it, right? And you don't. One thing I learned when I had my clinic this past weekend was don't give things power, right?
Yeah.
So I don't give my back pain power, right? So I know I always work on the things I need to do. So, but chronic back pain, it's defined as pain that is continued for 12 weeks or longer, even after initial injury or underlying cause of acute low back pain has been treated. Interesting statistic, about 20% of people affected by acute back pain develop chronic low back pain with persistent symptoms after 1 year.
Mm.
So, so yeah, um, so yeah, those are the two different common types, and then I'll get into um, more about the structural, the mechanical, the more structural and structurally and biomechanically, and what those are as well.
And that's a great point. So we have acute back pain. And again, acute back pain for everyone that's here listening, it's short term, right? It comes, it goes. You've rolled your ankle and now you're asymmetrically loading, meaning you're on one side and your hips are thrown off, and all of a sudden you got this back pain and you need to adjust and stretch, and you're kind of figuring out how long it takes, and then it subsides. Chronic back pain, it's around, you've lived with it for a long period of time. It flares up, it goes away a little bit, but it's always there. You're kind of always feeling it. Some people have chronic back pain after they have like a disc rupture, or because they have scoliosis or other bone structure not deficiencies, but differences that occur, right? You feel it in your neck, you can feel it in your thoracic spine, your cervical spine, or your lower back. um those are some serious things that happen. If you are one person that is dealing with acute back pain, put that in the comments. If you're someone who's dealing with chronic back pain, put that in the comments. We'd love to see, kind of based on our audience, what is our audience dealing with the most, and how we can kind of gear our message and our recommendations and our beliefs so that you can understand how to better serve yourself, better release, better stretch. What's the next steps to take to kind of help this get better? Right, Ron?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, just definitely hit us up. We can't necessarily give medical advice, but we can give you recommendations on some things that we can do. So yeah, definitely put that in the comments. Like, what are you dealing with? Put it in seeing how, we're definitely here of service.
Yes,
So
100%.
definitely here of service. So we there's tons of knowledge between the both of us. I think if I reached over on the other side of the screen, you may not be able to see my hand, but we may be able to touch our brains together, and it just kind of, the energy just flows, right?
Yeah.
So it's all that knowledge that comes in. So I want to talk a little bit about, so you have the acute back pain, you have the chronic back pain, but then there's what I call structural and biomechanical. So structural is actually back pain that happens in the spinal column. So it could be the vertebrae itself, it could be a disc, something slips out. Biomechanically is more of the actual muscle tissue. So it could be that you have a spasm. It could be a sprain or a strain in the back, in the low back, in the back area. So it could be locked up. I got a perfect example. One of my good friends, he was doing back squats on the Smith machine. If you don't know what a Smith machine is, it's a machine that's actually guided by two beams, which I'm actually glad he was on that and not doing just a traditional squat, because he would have hurt himself very, very bad. But he was on there doing back squats, and I guess he kind of turned a certain way, and his whole right side of his back locked up, and it was really bad.
Wow.
But he was able to, again, because it was on that thing, he was able to at least lock it and let it drop without him hurting himself. And he had to go to the hospital and all that stuff, get treated by a doctor. But anyway, the point being is that it was biomechanical. It was a muscular issue. I don't know, and it could have been just a certain way he turned, and everything just kind of just locked up on his back, and his back locked up on him for like 4. It slowly subsided, but it stayed like that for first 24 to 72 hours, and then it slowly subsided by the end of the week.
Woo, that is painful. That sounds painful. That sounds like you have to push a lot, and you have to have a specific mindset to know you're going to be okay. I always ask myself, like, what movements are people doing that are popular movements that are causing so much damage, right? And with TikTok and YouTube and all these different platforms where people can just scroll up and they can see somebody with their shirt off or somebody with a nice body doing deadlifts, and they're like, oh, I'm gonna do that because I want to look like this person, I want to be like that person, right? And then they go and do that, and what happens? They pull something, they hurt something.
Hurt something. Yeah, and it's and nothing against what's on. I mean, there are some great professionals online, but if you're, and I'm just going to tell you this as an experienced fitness professional and sports therapist, that if you are someone that's new to any type of weight training, go seek out a professional that knows that movement pattern well, and go talk to them. If you're going to try to do, especially deadlift, so I compete with powerlifting and deadlifting. If you go, you say, well, I'm going to start doing deadlifts, and then, and this is the craziest thing. So if you go and do deadlifts and you throw your back out, you can't blame the weight. The weight is an inanimate object. You only could blame what you were doing with the weight, right? So
Yes.
it's funny because I'm also very efficient with kettlebells, and when somebody does kettlebell swings and they're not doing it properly, they're not loading properly, and all of a sudden, they do something, and then it's like, oh, I hurt my back. They're looking at the kettlebell and saying, I will never use kettlebells again because that hurt my back. It's an inanimate object. Okay? It's an inanimate object, people. All right? It's how you use the inanimate objects. Okay?
It's true. It's true.
If you pick something up and you don't really know how to use it, you don't know what you're doing, that's your fault. It's not like the kettlebells, they're sitting there talking to you and like, hey, you know what? You're not gonna hurt me today, are you? Okay? It's like it's not like that. And you know what? I got that from Pavel. So Pavel is he owns Strong First, which is one of the number one top kettlebell organization and courses in the world. And I was listening to a podcast, and he's the one who said that. That's where I got that from. It was a huge aha moment when he said that. He's had someone come up to me and say, "Well, I got this kettlebell hurt my back," and he was like, "The kettlebell didn't hurt your back. It's an inanimate object. You just didn't learn the proper form and what to do to learn how to use that tool, you know." So it really goes into, like, if you're working out and training, and you know what, I do believe that you can be doing the right movement and then your body just responds freakishly to something. But again, don't blame something that is an object.
I think that's exactly right. I mean, let's just really pull that in and take a moment, everyone who is supporting this channel, supporting this podcast, take a moment and really, really let that sit in and resonate. You know, we're trying to better ourselves. We're trying to strengthen our bodies. We're trying to manage our weight. We're trying to fight osteoporosis. We're trying to build better hips. We're trying to be better athletes. Wherever you are in the spectrum of your health journey, there's no judgment or condemnation of where you are, whether you're a beginner, you've been training Taebo for 20 years and you're just going into
Love it.
fitness, you love Richard Simmons, there's no judgment or condemnation. The fact that Ron said, you cannot blame inanimate objects for poor form, for lack of knowledge, or for getting hype or feeling fear of missing out, or whatever it is that has caused you to resonate and try to do that movement. And whether it's ego lifting or just trying to mimic what you see without really adjusting it for yourself, go seek out a professional that will really give you guidance and understanding and clarity in order for you to have better body awareness. So when you're doing things, even if you feel that coming on, you'll have the body awareness to say, yo, my glutes are too tired. I can't hinge. Let me stop because I need to rest. Or maybe let me move on to something that's a little less actively moving, a little less power, and go into some stability training so I can build my stability and core so that I can then do that movement that I really want to do efficiently and proficiently, right? We want you to be able to do things well, but just jumping at it because it's exciting and fun and trending could cause so much more bad than good if you haven't built up those other stages. That's why we suggest and recommend going into stability stage first, and really, however long it takes, build your core strength in the right way. Fitness Essentials here, we use the 5 checkpoint method, and we make sure all of our clients understands that methodology, because that methodology, no matter how fast you move, it translates very well. It translates to how you're going to squat, how you're going to squat jump, all the different things that you're going to be doing with your body, because we really target those 5 major areas: your feet, your knees, your hips, your shoulders, your head. And we constantly cycle through, what is my feet doing? Are they flat? Are they arched? Are they pronated? Are they supinated? Turned in, turned out, right? What is my knees doing? Are they locked out? Are they soft enough? Am I hyperextending? Is there a possibility for me to tear something? What are my hips doing? Is it anterior pelvic tilted, posterior pelvic tilted? What is my shoulders doing? Am I rounding and protracting? Am I retracting and depressing and keeping my upper body strong? What's my core and my head doing? Those things are important to go through and pick on and check on every movement, every rep. And so here at Fitness Essentials, we don't let you slip. We talk about it every rep. And we want you to know not just that you're doing a push-up or you're doing a deadlift or you're doing a kettlebell swing, but why are you doing it? What muscles are the primary movers? What muscles are the secondary movers? What are your stabilizer muscles that are keeping you from falling left or right or forward or backwards? And how does it all work together to burn the calories that you're looking to burn, to help strengthen your body, which is ultimately the goal, and to help get you to the results you want by doing these movements, right? We don't want you to do these movements and not squeeze your butt when you need your glutes to be able to movement.
Yeah.
If you're using your lower back instead of your butt, and all of a sudden your back hurts, it's because you're ignoring a major muscle group. So again, very passionate about this because I've suffered through it as a young person lifting in high school, trying to keep up with the seniors for football. I've done way too heavy lifting, trying to keep up, and everybody's cheering you on. And then, you're at home just like in pain. And even as an adult, after getting major injuries, I had asymmetrical shift. My hips would shift, my walk would shift. And that was like a domino effect, right? We call it the injury accumulative cycle, where all of a sudden one injury leads to another injury. And if you don't correct that injury, it just continues to compound on itself. And so I had to figure that out based on the science and education that I had and put that training into myself as I was running a business, because I didn't have Aflac. I didn't have anything to say, rest. I had to keep working. So I had to make sure I could heal as I was working. So it was an amazing life lesson. And so every once in a while, I'll get some twinges in my lower back if I'm sitting too much and coaching, and not working on myself enough, or if I'm overactive and I get excited and my ego gets the best of me and I lift too heavy. Sometimes that happens and I have to correct myself and replay the 5 checkpoint method for myself, so that I can ask myself, what is the purpose? What am I trying to get out of here? Why am I rushing the process when I could really just take the time, be on this lifelong journey of health and wellness, and know that I'm in this for the long haul. This is a marathon, not a race. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, and I do agree with that. To your point, when I teach when I have clients and I teach them how to deadlift, I take their shoes and socks off. I like to see where their feet are placement, how their ankles are stable. And when I start them off, I literally have an old broomstick that
Yes.
I start them with, and I do the claw grip, the reverse claw grip, and I make sure that they're putting that broomstick nice and close to their shins, and they're packing their lats, they're packing their back, and the breath is huge. The breath is where the power comes from, So I'll make them go, hup, yeah. So I make sure they put that breath, that they lock that breath in, because the power comes right from the breath too. And so everything is locked in. So I'll have them do that from the start. And then with kettlebell swings, once I actually start them out swinging, you talk about that glute activation. So it doesn't. So if you're not activating that glute, you know what? It's gonna go right up into the back. So what I do is I said, act like I'm behind you with a 50-cent piece, and you're trying to snatch it out of my hand, right?
Yeah, that's a good
That's
one.
what I tell them, right? So if they were to squeeze their butt and I had that 50-cent piece, their glutes would snatch that 50-cent piece right out of my hands, right? So it gives them a visual. Okay, I'm trying to snatch that 50-cent piece out. So now I'm collapsing that 50-cent piece. So it's just kind of that. So you're taking them through the right motions, so they don't have any low back and back injuries. And if you are a good trainer, a good instructor, put that in. Put it in the chat. Have you ever went to a trainer or someone and they just sucked? They just freaking sucked. Like they took you through a pattern or a motion, and your back, and then you end up getting your back hurt. I'll put in chat because that's important. We want to know. I mean, don't use any names. We want you to tell us about your experience, but we don't want you telling on the person. All right. We don't want, yeah, like, tell them, Sally So, the trainer down the street, hurt my back, you go in, start waving your finger, like we don't want all that, right? We don't want no
Yeah.
drama.
Yeah,
Ain't
don't get too
mobility,
toxic in the
yeah,
comments,
this
please.
ain't
But please
mobility vote
share.
drama station. So, crazy. So, but yeah, I want to talk about like ages. I thought, which is pretty crazy. Like the so the first tackle back pain typically occurs between the ages of 30 and 50, which I thought was interesting. So you have the age bracket of, and this is just in general, like what happens in general. And I think as you get older, uh, natural deterioration of low back and back, it just happens in the disc. You see people actually shrinking and getting smaller, right? And I work with a chiropractor who has probably 40, 50 years experience in chiropractics. And one of the biggest advice he shared with me was that um, if you're working with anyone over the age of 40, automatically assume they have some type of back pain, whether it's low back, mid back, where it case can be. Just automatically assume. Back pain becomes more common with advanced age. So I mentioned that as well. So yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. And then just some things that can also affect low back pain if you're, if you're doing or not doing. So if your fitness level, right? So back pain is more common amongst people who are not physically fit. So you always, if you are physically fit and you're working out, you're less likely to have low back pain. Weight gain can affect, and I can attest to that. There has been times in my life where I, got busy in my life, got sedentary, and that donut was looking good. It was like, things start going like, whoa, walking around like I'm 10 months pregnant, like I'm pregnant like an elephant. I'm like, yo, what's this? Right? So, and then it's all of a sudden, I have that, like I said, I have that hyperlordotic curve in my back. So it's like if I'm putting on that weight, it's help job related factors. That is so common. I have a friend of mine. He's been dealing with chronic low back pain for 3 years. He had a job injury, uh, took him out of job, and been on comp ever since. So he went from what we spoke about, that acute low back pain, to that chronic low back pain. So he's still dealing with that 3 years later. This was another one I thought was very interesting. Smoking. Who would thought smoking would be an issue? It can restrict blood flow and oxygen to the disc, causing them to degenerate faster. So I thought that was interesting as well.
That's powerful stuff. And yes, age is a factor. No matter how much you want to avoid it, no matter how much you want to try to um, deny it, like, we have to recognize age is a factor, and it's something that we need to prepare for. You said it, man. The human body shrinks as we get older, so it tells you that gravity wins, right? Eventually we all end up in the dirt, or if you're going to burn yourself and push yourself in the lake or whatever you're going to do, fly yourself to Mars or whatever, that's great. um but it's true, like that's one major factor. It's very interesting that smoking, because of what it does to restrict oxygen from the cells and the cell membranes. Look at that. That's a very important thing to pay attention to. Job related injuries and occupational hazards is something. It doesn't matter if you're sitting all day. Some people stand all day. Some people are in construction, and they think that because they're in construction, they don't have to work out, because they're always working out, right? They're always lugging in labor work. But with all that said, there's still so many things you can do to make sure that your body's protected in those spaces. Think about people who travel. My clientele tends to be highly impactful people who are traveling frequently, who are on stages speaking to tens of hundreds of people or even thousands of people at a time, who are masters at their trade, whether it's publications, sales, promotions, PR work, talent agent work. I mean, these are the people I deal with and work with, as well as, like, I work with my 78-year-old client who was a CEO of Johnson & Johnson. Now she's retired and she wants to lose weight and manage her pain. And so it's such a variable. I've been blessed to work with so many different people from 8 years old to 88 years old. And just at this kind of stage in my life, post-COVID, kind of in COVID, but almost out, I've been working with people internationally. I've been working with people bi-coastally, and we're just really focused on the things that we can do, not just to strengthen our structure, not just to get to our goal of what we want to look like, but also to strengthen our frame, our structure, the muscles, the bones, the neurological system as well. right? So we talked about snatching, and I love what you do. I tell people, imagine this, the winning lotto ticket. You got the winning lotto ticket and you don't want the wind to blow it away. Squeeze your butt. You know what I mean?
Oh my God, that's phenomenal. I love that. That's awesome. And paper's lighter than metal, man. It just goes away faster, right? I love
Yeah, it'll
it.
blow away. Don't let it blow away. And we talk about that not just in our deadlifts, but in our squats and our planks, in our push-ups. Like I get people to really focus on that part of their body, the
Yep.
hips and the core, and how that relates. And I love what you said about breathing, because when we breathe out properly, we create this pressure within our abdomen and in our obliques and our multifidi and in our transverse abdominis. All these words are real words. It's not like fake words. You can look them up. You can even talk to your chiropractor or doctors about these particular words and areas. So if you need to rewind and listen again, please feel free. If you want to look things up, do your research, please. We encourage you to do your research, do your due diligence,
Absolutely.
come back and write
Absolutely.
that in the comments. Let us know what you think about what you've heard, and if you like things, please give us a thumbs up, like and share with your friends and family. Let them know what we're doing here to try to educate as many people as possible. But yeah, I make sure that they get that hip core relationship with all of their movements, right? As long as you're not in the bottom of your squat where your glutes stretched, if you're coming up, your quads don't have to be the only thing to do it. And also the one way of lifting or the over working of one groups of muscles can be really damaging. If you're always squatting, lunging, because like you're just so focused on the front of your body, the anterior part of your body, you're always doing push-ups and bicep curls because you just want those things you see to look good, you could be really causing a lot of damage, unevenness, if you will, asymmetrical loading, if you will, on one side of the body. So you really want to have a balanced workout. You really want to make sure you're working not just the front of your body, the anterior side, but the posterior chain, so that you can make sure you strengthen the muscles in a really healthy and a symmetrical way, right?
That is absolutely true. So it's kind of funny you say, do like everything frontward. When I was 18, man, buys, tries, and buys and chest, bro. That's how we were doing, man. Walk around like this, boof, knocking people over, thinking we big, like big dogs, right?
Yeah.
So, but it's funny, I remember a couple years back, I was in the gym and I saw this young man. He was probably like 19, 20 years old, and every day I would go, and every time I went to the gym, I would see him working his biceps and chest. So I said, "Are you working your opposing muscles?" He goes, "What do you mean?" So it's just interesting that I said, "Are you working your back? Are you working your tries? Are you working more full body? Or you're just is this all I saw every day?" You know. So
Yeah.
so it's just interesting that you say that. Um, but yeah, I do agree. You want to make sure that you are making sure you're strengthening the entire body. Like when somebody says strengthen your core, everyone that hears that that's not educated believes they like, oh, that's just my six pack. Your core is anything from if you're talking about your interior, it's from basically your quads up, and then from your posterior is from your hamstrings up. So I always say, like, imagine if you were in a barrel and you did I would say the length of a barrel. So it's kind of like that circumference,
Mm,
your core circumference, that whole area.
mm.
So that's what you're focusing on to help keep everything strong and intact. Um, yeah, and put in the comments, what if if you're familiar with, if you ever heard of that, like if it's something new to you, because people, they come up, they doing crunches all day, but they're not they're not strengthening any of the posterior, they're not strengthening the posterior chain, which is the back, everything in the back from the back,
Yeah.
so yeah, that is definitely interesting.
I agree
um
with you. I say take your arms off, take your legs off, pop your head off, and now you found your core.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's it.
Absolutely.
And your butt, you don't take your butt off, you keep your butt on, right? But like, boom, from right where the middle of your thigh, like you said, and hamstrings go into your glutes. I really, really work on that. And then the different planes of motion, which we can get into in another video.
Yep.
You know, what is the different planes of motion? How do you train outside of just the sagittal forward, backward, squat, lunge, push, push, push? How do you get into the transverse plane? Golfers will love to hear that. Tennis players will love to hear that,
Oh yeah,
as well as people
absolutely.
who may not have the same mobility would love to hear that. But that's something that can help with your back, but also outside of just so much to the planes of motion that I think we'll save that for another one. If you've ever heard of that, also drop that in the comments. We love to know. I know you have a couple more things you want to share. So what is another thing you want to share about lower back pain, Ron?
Yeah, we're getting close to wrapping up some of the things I want to share about low back pain. And everything ties into how we're going to end this. So it's like how low back pain is treated. So just some stuff. Heat and ice is just common is something common you use. May help ease pain, reduce inflammation, and improve mobility for some people. But if you go into something that's really acute, um, heat and ice may not be something you want to use right then and there. Maybe something you may want to look at maybe like 24 to 72 hours after the incident, or just follow whatever your healthcare professional recommends. So if you go see a physical therapist or a doctor, that's you definitely want to follow the record. So if you had an acute injury the day of and they say, okay, well, put a heat pack on it, you follow whatever that healthcare professional actually tells you to do. Um, um, Another thing is just general stretching. I talked about that at the beginning, and Cliff talked about. One thing we talked about was the pros and cons of foam rolling. We did that in episode 3, and what we you want to find ways to stretch and do mobility work that suits you. We can give you, you can find a template on how to do that. But again, like I always say, talk to someone who knows what they're doing. Um, because you can't get hurt stretching, which is the craziest thing. It's like you can't hurt yourself stretching if you don't know what you're doing. So that is a thing.
It is.
Um,
Mobility can be just as dangerous if you're not paying attention to, the natural stopping point of when your body's like, this is where I'm at, and everyone's like, oh, I gotta push through this to get more mobile, versus like, no, I gotta sit here, let this become comfortable, then I can continue to push through maybe the next time because my body will allow me to. And it's just paying it. It's body awareness, man. Right? It's
it really
having
is.
more body awareness, not just being so cerebral, because our world is so cerebral. Everything we do is how much money are we making? How are we going to better ourselves? How are we doing with the 6 steps of life? How are we doing with the 48 powers? Like, I get it, right? We want to be better business people, better human beings. But if we're not good to this vessel that we live in and we just ignore it because we're vibrational beings, we're going to deteriorate before we can make impact and actually live in that glory of the impact that we're making, right? So
I
it's
do
very
agree.
important that we recognize these things. So thank you for pointing that out.
I do
Stretching
agree. I do agree with
can
that
hurt you.
stretching. And then there's some other things you can do. You can do acupuncture. I personally have never done it, but I've heard. I know it's crazy. I'm in the rehab world of training, and I always try different things. But something I just never had tried acupuncture. I have tried what's called dry needling, which is another form of using needles. Be honest with you, I didn't have a great response. My body didn't have a great response to that, but not knocking it. I think is something, acupuncture and dry needling is something that I recommend that you all should try anyway. Chiropractics, which I'm a strong believer in, massage. I'm a massage therapist. I do a lot of stretching and mobility work. Do your shopping. Just don't go to someone that's just splashing oil on you and just moving around, wax on and wax off on your body. If you're in some real pain, you got something going on. Find somebody that knows what the frick they're doing. Find that person. And unfortunately, in the massage world, they're rare. every the masses are people that um do mostly what's called like your effleurage or your soft your light work, your oh my god, um
Like a Swedish massage?
Swedish. That's the word I was looking for, Swedish. So the majority of who you'll find is doing Swedish, which is your typical soft, easy, relaxing massage. Not really focusing on getting you out of pain, and that's one of the things I specialize in. And then physical therapy is another one. Um, so those are just some of the handful of things you can do um, to help treat um, low back pain when you're going through it. I have a great physical therapist that I always recommend, and I've heard nothing but great things. But it's always good when you have a great practitioner that gets you out of that pain spasms cycle, or if you have something going on structurally that can get you out of that, get out of that pain structurally as well.
And I've been able to work with the older population for years now. I mean, some of my retention with the older population has been 15 years of work. I'm proud to say I haven't had to work with thousands and thousands of people, which is why I'm now on this platform so I could share my knowledge with thousands and thousands of people. But my retention has been so good that I've been able to make a living and grow a business off of a smaller group, maybe 300 to 400 people. I've grown my fitness business to over 200 plus people within a short period of time after taking it over and only having 19 members there. So going from 19 members in 2015 to over 200 active members in
Wow,
right
phenomenal.
before 2020, that generates a nice income until COVID hit. And then I had to re-innovate, which allowed me to get international. I've worked in over 6 different countries and states outside of just my hometown here in New Jersey and New York. And that has been eye-opening to know that I could take my knowledge and not have to be stuck in a location. I could actually communicate and help people all over the place. And it's been magical. But because I work with the older population and they're active, they're golfers, they train daily. Some don't take rest days. And you know what I'm talking about. You need to
Yeah,
take more rest days. Um, I have
recovery is
to
huge.
always ask them every time, like, any aches and pains, how are you feeling today? Before I just write down the workout that I'm assuming they're going to do, I need to know how they're feeling and where they're at in their lives, because they could have went to a golf tournament and they could have total back pain, and all the things that I wanted to do with them, I have to modify. So I'm always open to that. It doesn't make me feel upset that I can't do the workout that I put together because now my client, my member, has things going on in his or her body that needs to be addressed. And this is what we get paid to do. This is why we're the experts and the professionals, because we can then take that information and in 5 to 10 minutes during their warm up, hopefully you've adjusted their warm up, you took out any hit or jumping, and you've put more stretching for the hips, lower back, piriformis. Maybe you add some bridging, and not like yoga bridging, but like hip thrust bridging. Like maybe you add some more hamstring mobility stuff going
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
Maybe you take a little bit of essence from yoga and Pilates, put it in there so that they can have more of those smaller muscles activating so you can get them more mobile. And the goal for me, when my client says I have back pain, I'm hurting, the goal for me, guys, honestly, is to make sure they feel better when they leave than they did when they start. Not that they're
Love that.
sweating more,
I love that.
not that they feel like they're exhausted, not that they had the hardest workout in the world. No, I want them to feel better because that means I can see them again, right?
Yeah.
That means they can see me again. That means they can go and golf again. That means they can be able to do the things they love. And that's how they're going to contribute to their fitness. Just like those people who say, oh, that kettlebell hurt me, I'm never doing kettlebells. And it's an inanimate object. Same with pain. People here feel pain, they don't want to go back to it. I need to make sure
Right.
that my clients, my members always feels better at the end of their workout, no matter how hard they worked, than they did when they walk in. And that's what I think a really good professional who understands and has a heart centeredness, but also has action and can really take care of the math and the actualization and the actualizing of the program and communicates with real focused communication to help people retain what they've learned, not just, oh yeah, my trainer told me to work out and I did a bunch of things with my trainer. What did you do? Some push-ups and stuff. I don't know. He has it. No.
Mhm.
You should know why you're doing things, what you're doing for, what you're doing it for. How is it strengthening all of the parts of your body? How is your fast twitch and slow twitch fibers working? How is your primary movers and secondary movers working? You're paying not just for movement. I think you're paying for education. And it's
I
important
love
for
that.
me to relay that information. And so
I
that's
love
why
that.
finding, it's like mechanics. Like you said, you can find a really crappy mechanic. I almost dropped it. You can find a really crappy mechanic that'll sell you 150 different things, and all you needed was brakes. Or you can find a really good mechanic that will inform you on things to come, and you can budget properly, manage, or even take care of it at that point, because rapport and trust was built through professionalism. It's the same way with people in this industry, whether it's massage, personal trainers. I call myself a fitness life coach, but I am a personal trainer. Those are the things that really makes a big difference. So please write down in the comments if you had good experiences, bad experiences. If you have the best coach you think in the world, drop a name there, all positive. That's good. If you have the worst coach or worst experience, just write about your experience. We can leave the name out of it so that there's no drama. But we want to know how you guys are going about this journey. We want to be a part of this journey with you. I'm so grateful for you, Ron. Thank you so much for your insight. Any last words? Any finals?
Yeah, just fine. And just one quick last question. Can back pain be prevented? And my answer to that is not really. I mean, I think if it can be reduced if you do proper exercise, if you are have a proper diet, you're doing everything right, but you have no control over your environment. So your environment could be your place of work, it could be the gym, it could be that you just went to simply go grab something. I used to, when I was a personal trainer at a gym, my supervisor, who was freaking amazing, fitness instructor, really, really in phenomenal shape. She was just at home vacuuming. That simple vacuum motion, and she just went out, and all of a sudden her back locked up.
Mm.
It just happened. So you don't have any control over your environment or some of the movement patterns you may be doing. Your body just does things. And there's no explanation. There's no real explanation. So
That's a good point. Yeah, I mean, if your mind wants your body to do something, your body will figure out how to do it, whether it's compensating or whatever it's doing. If you want to go forward, you can go forward. Look at all the amazing people who come back from war and have all these different things and becomes Olympians. I mean, the human body is amazing. But yeah, I've seen people come to me and say, I just went and reached for something in the car. Like, I just reached for something in the back seat. What the heck? Like I'm hurting. I can't move. So I would say, is it preventable? Not 100%, like you said.
right.
I was trying to find a way to be like, I'm gonna say no, he's gonna say yes, but no. Realistically, every human being is different, and because
Yeah.
every human being is different, I mean, you could be in the best shape of your life, get into a car accident, and now you have chronic pain, and you had nothing to do with it. You were working your core, you were training, you were in your 20s, right? You were out of all of the different statistics. You get into a car accident, now you have chronic back pain for 40 years that you have to manage. It sucks, but I think when it comes to, can you control your environment to a point where you can protect yourself? If you lay down for too long, if you were dealing with COVID and it was, you didn't have to work and all you were doing was laying in bed because you were like emotional or lonely or all the different things before you bought your dog or before you had a new child or whatever it is. People, there's a lot of babies and pets now. There's a lot more babies and pets, bro. I'm telling you, everybody has a 2-year-old. Like, I could do the time. Everybody has like a 1-year-old or a 2-year-old. Yeah, y'all had some time on your hands.
Look
You
at
had at
this
least
baby
9
boy.
good months. But no, really, everyone's different and everyone's gonna have a different life experience and a life journey. Do I think it can be minimized? Do I think you can get that percentage to as low as possible? Totally. You
I
know,
agree with that.
training, working hard, being aware, having body awareness, stretching regularly, staying mobile, paying attention to your environment. You know, changing your environment, maybe get a stand-up desk if you sit too much, maybe get a stability ball to sit on as well. Do strengthening of the glutes and the hips and the core musculature, work your posterior chain, not just your anterior chain. You know, pay attention to how if you're one-sided or if your leg is longer, go to a chiropractor, get adjusted. You know, go to a acupuncturist, go to a massage therapist, you know, go to a doctor and ask them for a physical. Look at what your skeletal system is doing and how you're aging and how it's changing, if it is changing. You know, some people didn't have had a curve in their neck, and in their 60s all of a sudden they have a straight neck and they have reverse scoliosis. They don't know how, but most of it is the technology, right? Remember, we're in a forward society. Everything that is built, from driving to eating to cooking, it's all for your anterior, because obviously we can't, you know, put our hands behind our head and do things like that, right? We don't have eyes behind our head. So everything is designed anteriorly, which causes a rounding, which causes a slouching, which causes us sitting and curving under our hips. But we weren't meant as human beings to sit all day. We weren't meant as human beings to be so focused on forward movements. I think we were meant as human beings to have a multiple mobility, the ability to move in multiple ways, right? We can shift sideways, we can turn, we can swim, we can climb, we can do all these things. You know, look at all the animals in the world. We can do the majority of what they can do. Some can do it faster, like cheetahs, but really think about what the human body is capable of and recognize that if you're doing something for 30 years, 20 years, and you've been a chef and you've been cooking and you have shoulder pain and you might have had all those different issues, like, take it back to those times of repetitive motion and recognize that repetitive motion could be causing some things, and you may need to do other things to fight it, to prevent it from getting worse, the injury, the weakness, or the lack of mobility. So that's what I think about preventative back pain. You know, there's some humans that may never experience it.
Yeah.
Congratulations, that's great for them. There are other humans that can't remember living a day without it. And, you know, we want everyone to be able to get more mobile, have less pain, because the less pain you're in, the more you can vibrate your energy, the more you can respond with positivity, the more you can take on other stressors, right? But if you're in chronic pain, Ron is amazing because he is such a positive individual who's living with pain regularly and learn how to manage it. And not everyone is a Ron. That's why he's here with us to share
Right.
with you know. So love the smile, brother. Love the laughter. Love your time. Thank you so much for being here. What do you got to
Appreciate
say to the
you.
people?
Man, we're just gonna close it out, man. Let's do it. I want you to stay awesome, keep stepping into greatness, and be legendary.
Legendary.
Let's go. Hey, if you have any questions, any comment, put them in the chat. Let's go. We're here to help and serve.
I just want to give a quick shout out to Be Legendary Apparel. Thank you so much for sponsoring this video. I also want to give a quick shout out to Fitness Essentials. Thank you so much for sponsoring this video. We look forward to doing more and being more with you and being around. We'll share more topics. Thank you so much for being here. Have a great evening.